welcome to Now Chat Show. It's your girl Caz Mac alongside my girl Miss T. I'm not sure if Miss T's reception just... Oh, there you go, Miss T. How you doing, girl? So welcome guys to another episode of Now Chat Show. Now, I know it's been a little while, right? It's been a whole 6 months. Today's the 1st of June. We needed some time off. So this is the best way to come back with an amazing show for you all. Today, we have an amazing guest who's going to be joining us very, very shortly. But before we bring her on, T, how you doing, girl?
I'm fabulous. I'm so happy about this guest. You look amazing, Queen, as always. But I'm so excited to speak to Akua.
Yes, me too. I'm really intrigued to hear more about her story, because as much as we put it out there, we're talking about, you know, when we was growing up, anything in a household that wasn't like, because I was brought up in a Christian home, yeah, and obviously I still have those belief systems, etc. However, when I was growing up, it was very much of a thing was anything that is outside of that remit is of the devil.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying. Yes. So
a demon something.
Yeah, it's a demon thing, but this conversation isn't really going to be focused on that. And I think that kind of like got everybody's alarm bell going. It's going to be so much more than what people actually expected, because we didn't want to give them too much information, because we want them to join and let everybody else know. So those who are watching, thank you for joining us this evening.
Yes, thank you.
And please do share as well.
And get involved in the chat. Like, come on.
Yes. So before we bring Akua onto the show itself, we're just going to show a quick illustration of the upcoming event, which is going to be taking place this bank holiday, the Queen Jubilee. So before we, let me just play. All right, just bear with me.
Yeah, my name is Carol Leeming, otherwise known as Ashe, and I'm here at the African spirituality event here in London. And also I'm here with some sisters from Leicester who've come all the way from the East Midlands for this event. It's so special. I work as a spiritual worker, and I've never been to a Black-led spirituality event. This is my first one in about 25 years, and I'm looking forward to more. The energy is incredible. We've had incredible speakers and workshops, and all of us, we're having a great time. And we just want to say thank you to Akua and her team for making such a really great day. And we look forward to more days like this. And, you know, we're just making contacts, networking, and learning so much good stuff. Thank you.
Wow, that just looks so amazing. I know. Seriously. So I think without further ado, it only makes sense. Let's just bring Akua straight into the studio.
Bring the Queen in.
Hello.
How are you doing, Queen?
I'm really, really, really good. And yeah, just super, super excited to be with you guys today. Really, really good. Thank you.
Amazing. So before we get started, how are you doing today? You okay? Everything all right?
I'm good. I had a quick chat with one of the speakers at the event. She's doing something called vocal healing, and she just did an amazing meditation. It wasn't even that long. It might only have been about 5-7 minutes, but it has just transformed and brought down, 2 days before an event, there's a lot of anxiety and everything. It's just made everything chilled. So I'm doing very, very well. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Okay, so I think it just makes sense we just get straight into the conversation, because we know you have another event that's going to be taking place, and I'm sure you're going to be sharing that information a bit later. But in the meantime, T, because you know Akua, don't you? You've met her before, right?
I have been blessed. I don't know if you remember Akua, but I walked past with one of my friends called Mercy, and she was like, come through this way. And I ended up staying at your stall for over 2 hours.
Yes.
And you taught me in that short space of time. I got so much information. You just catapulted me onto a totally new journey. Because remember, I was telling you that I'd just done the doula course.
Yes.
And then you were just like, you know about an emphyogenic midwife? And I was like,
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Who
So
knew
yes,
we were going to bump into each other
tell
here?
us a bit about yourself and how you're.
So I think Miss T is just frozen for a moment, but we just want to hear, how did your journey start? I mean, because you're obviously the founder of African spiritual practices. What is African spiritual practices?
Okay, so what it is kind of all the things that I learnt when sort of 5-6 years ago, I returned from living in Ghana where I thought I was going to live. I returned back to the UK because my mum needed an operation. Her operation went wrong. So from what was going to be a 3-month visit to help her recuperate, we ended up staying because her back got ruined. And I had to give up my life in Ghana and be back over here. And I was definitely depressed. I don't think I knew I was, but I definitely was. It was such a quick change in life. And during that time, my son ended up starting to get into trouble, and he was basically groomed into a drug dealing gang, ended up being involved in county lines, and that whole story. And that's what got me to try and find different things that could help me, because we just, as a family, we just didn't have the wherewithal. And then, I went to social services and I realized as an institution, they didn't have the wherewithal. I was cooperating with the police. They didn't have the wherewithal. It was like, okay, I need to start finding some other tools to be able to help my son and help my family. So it was that journey of discovering different healing modalities. So first it was the physical and psychological stuff. And then after a while, I had to start realizing, okay, I need some deeper help. I need some ancestral help, because just psychology and these things were cool, but I knew there was a deeper help. My mum's a Christian, so she and her church people were praying, and I never told them to stop. But I also knew about African spirituality. I'd met an African traditional priest from America, but who was now living in South Africa. So I phoned him. There was another brother, Dalian, who does an organization called Ancestral Voices. I phoned him. He showed me how to set up my first ancestral altar, and kind of bit by bit, I was introduced to Elegba, the deity of the crossroads, and to just go and pour libation and pray to him. And my prayer to him was, I want my son returned. I don't want him arrested. I don't want him caught with any drugs or any money. I had a tall order. And it happened 5 times in a row. The police would pick up this boy at the moment where he'd got rid of everything. And even he started saying, Mum, I'm getting a bit scared. I'm like, yes, so come home. You're getting scared, come home. But it was literally all the things I learned, including psychedelics, that I put together. And I deliberately called it African spiritual practices because what I wanted was to also really attract lots of Black people like myself. So it's African spiritual practices, but it's near all the healing modalities and technologies and our African spiritual practices.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Oh my gosh. So we're going to chop this up. So before, I just want to know, what is psychedelic? What is that?
Psychedelic.
Yes, psychedelic.
Psychedelics are plant medicines and man-made compounds that alter your consciousness, but physically what they actually do on the brain, and all psychedelics work a bit in the same way. So when we think about things as human beings, individuals, we think about things in the same way. That's what becomes your personality. So this person's quick to anger, or this person's also always calm. That's their personality. But when you take a psychedelic, what happens is those normal neuro pathways that where you would think A and then your brain would make you go to B, this time you'll think about, I've got a problem, and your brain under psychedelics will go to another part of the brain for an answer. So you
Oh,
start to think about things differently. It shifts your perspective, and you gain insights, you gain new insights into problems or situations or life, and you can let go of trauma. So those are psychedelics, but there's loads of them. But in a capsule, that's what psychedelics are.
okay. So when you say it will tap into another part of the brain,
Mm-hmm.
so in order for it to tap into another side of the brain, would that brain had been fed information that is quite positive, or is it just trying to get an understanding how it actually works?
That's a brilliant question, actually. So basically, it's so interesting. Human beings, our traumas are almost very surface. So as soon as you start digging a bit beneath with any human being, what you actually end up at is really things that are just helpful to that human being, because the unhelpful parts of ourselves have been created due to trauma. So what happens is psychedelics kind of help bypass the trauma, because the trauma isn't really you. You know,
Mm.
somebody who's quick to anger because actually they were brought up in a household where it was dangerous and you had to always show that you were fit, you were fierce. That's not who they really are. That's a personality that's developed in relation to where they grew up. So under psychedelics, and a so-called angry person isn't that person, because it doesn't speak to the trauma. It speaks to the ultimate, if you like, your higher self, the part of you that knows things that the conscious part of you doesn't even know, the part of you that is also your DNA speaking, so you can get information from yourself that you didn't even know you knew, because actually we know everything.
Mm.
It's just, you know, there are various blockers. And what they found with psychedelics when they first started doing brain imaging under psychedelics was, what they found was that the brain was actually really calm. Most of the brain is almost shut down. And what they found is that when the brain is actually shut down, that's where inspiration is, because reality is actually not created by our brain. The brain regulates how much can go in. That's why you can put somebody under hypnosis and they can tell you about past lives, because a lot of the brain has actually been shut down. The brain seems to really be something that filters reality and gives us a narrow band of reality. And psychedelics kind of quietens the brain so that whatever we are on the inside can receive information from all around us and from inside of us.
That sounds amazing.
It does. So, Akua, because I know a lot of people, when they hear psychedelics, the first thing they're going to think of is, I'm going to see stuff. Please, can you address this for us?
Yeah. I mean, you probably are going to see stuff. And it's cool, because when you see the stuff, that's where the story is. And that's where the healing also is, because it's the stories that you come back with that then, in what we call integration, if you prepared well. So there's what they call set and setting. If you're at a rave and somebody gives you a bag of magic mushrooms, and without looking you take 5 grams, you're probably going to have a bad experience, because you're in a rave, there's loud music, there's loads of people you don't know, it's hot, people are pushing and shoving you. Remember what I said, a lot of your brain has kind of shut down and you're receiving a wider range of information. So where you take psychedelic medicines is hugely important, and your preparation before you take the medicine, which we call setting intentions, is hugely important as well. You want to make sure that you're going in with a clear question, in a nice setting, somebody to take care of you, just in case what comes up is, you know, whether it's a lot of crying or whether it's cold shaking, because there's different ways in which the body gets rid of trauma, and some of it is through shaking. It literally shakes it out. So you need someone there who can put an extra blanket on you, grab you the tissues, maybe hold your hand and take you to the toilet. But it's fun as well. You know, it's serious, but it's also fun. Invariably, even the most crying person will hit the moment where the universe shows them that it's all a joke, you know, and they will laugh.
I have never heard anybody just put it that way. Like, hey, when can we do a session?
Sis, we're going to go away and we'll do a session, because we know, unfortunately, it's still illegal in this country, but not for long.
Leading
Now,
on to my next question. Thank you. Go ahead.
Now that the big pharmaceuticals are involved, and there's a new organization that's just been started to actually come up with a group of rules and best practice. They do all of this stuff before they make something legal. So we might be as little as a year away. It could be as long as 3 years away. But the big boys have put millions and millions into scientific trials. Ketamine assisted centers have opened up, so you can actually take ketamine legally in a clinical setting. So that's already happened. I don't know if you can take ibogaine, which is from iboga, an African psychedelic. I'm not sure you can take that in this country, but you can go to Holland, you can go to Portugal and take it. So it's not going to be long. Definitely magic mushroom, psilocybin, that's going to be the next one that's going to be legal for sure.
In this country?
Yeah, in this country. It's legal in Jamaica.
I think a lot of things was legal in Jamaica.
But no. Yeah, Jamaica's a
well, that's a whole different show altogether. Wow. But, you know, there was something that you mentioned in regards to, you know, when you go through the trauma and the psychedelic, I'm trying to pronounce it correctly, but when it goes to another side of the brain and you really see who you really are in terms of your higher force, you know, the power that's within yourself. But it just made me think about my own self, because a few years ago, I was actually diagnosed as being borderline personality disorder. So when you just said that, it just made kind of sense in terms of the brain shutting down. You think that you're really the trauma. So obviously you act in a certain kind of way. So taking this would obviously reinforce that, so that you can then really live the real true you. So I think I need to get this like ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because so at the moment with the scientific trials, they won't give anybody who's been diagnosed as like borderline personality disorder or schizophrenia, they won't give you psychedelics. But there's an amazing man called Benjamin Mudge, wonderful, wonderful man who actually was diagnosed as schizophrenic, and also the other big mental one where you're really high and then really low. The name's just gone from my bipolar. Yes. So he would have been the sort of person completely excluded. And what he did was self-experimentation. He's actually writing a PhD all about that now, where he went off, took himself off to the jungles of Peru and other places and took ayahuasca. He knew intuitively that ayahuasca would help him. And he went through loads of stuff. Like he'll tell people, don't do what I did, because really he survived because I think he was put on this earth at this time to show the way in this medicine. Like I think he'd already done this journey before. Because when you read his story, when he tells you his story, every step of the way, he should have, you know, jumped off a cliff or ended up in a mental hospital. But he knew that there was a certain amount of the brew, because ayahuasca is made out of two plants. And he knew there was a certain mixture that would actually help him. And he experimented and experimented and experimented until he got there. And now I think he was saying there's a lab in Australia that's actually kind of breaking down his brew so that there can be that scientific formula, because you need that before you can test it out on other people. But there are ways in which there's a girl, I can't remember her name at all. She has a blog. Similar thing, but with magic mushrooms. and she cured her own bipolar, because there are ways in which, if somebody does have mental illness, there are ways in which they can use entheogens. It's just at the moment, because all the scientists are so desperate for it to all be made legal, they don't want to touch people who have been diagnosed with mental health issues. But there are other things that people can do. So something like with borderline personality disorder, tapping, emotional freedom technique can really, really, really work.
Can you elaborate more about the tapping as well? Because we've got to remember this. We've got viewers on Facebook and YouTube, and those going to be watching the replay, and they want to know more about tapping.
Totally,
and so if you can just elaborate, that'd be great.
So you have EFT, emotional freedom technique, and that's tapping on the meridian lines. So it's the same lines that acupuncture work on. So literally, I would say somebody with mental health issues, you can go to an acupuncturist, tell them what your issues are, and they will know which meridian lines need to be worked on. But you can do this yourself. I do one that's called faster EFT. I like faster EFT because it's faster. The guy who started it's called Robert Smith, and I think now he's called it you tap ticks. So literally you tap TAPICS, I think you tap ticks. And it's his one is really you tap here, you tap above the eye, you tap under the eye, you tap on just under the collarbone. Take a deep breath, breathe out, and you hold your wrist and you say peace. But before you tap, you think of your issue or think of your problem, what's upsetting you, and you give it a score out of 10, 10 being the worst, 0 being nothing. You give it a score, and then you try and ramp up the feeling in yourself, how upset you are. And then you imagine a balloon taking off, and then you just start tapping. And you'll just, I release and let it go, let it all 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 go. And you think peace as you breathe out. And that's something that's really good for when you know the kind of things that are going to trigger you, or you've been triggered. If you've been triggered in the day and you reacted in a way you weren't happy with, you can tap on it at night when you're back home and you're safe, and you can take your mind back there. Or if somebody said something about you that's touched a nerve, those are gold, those are magic. Because when somebody says something about you and it touches a nerve, part of what they said is true.
And
Otherwise
you're going to have that impact, right?
Yeah, and you're trying to hide from it. That's a brilliant one to tap on, because as you tap and you go back to the feeling, you'll start to see other thoughts will come up, and you start to understand what's buried underneath and inside all of these feelings. And you can just keep tapping on something round and round and round until you get down to 1 or 2, or sometimes you might even get down to 0. I've tapped on stuff and realized that trauma was held. One time I tapped on something, I started burping. I was burping and burping and burping. And it seems whatever it was trapped somewhere here.
Right.
I've tapped on stuff and farts. It's been funny. Like I've laughed because I haven't eaten anything. I'm just tapping and farts are letting this go. Tap, tears. So there are ways of dealing with trauma, but definitely tapping. Another one I learned is called The Work, by a woman called Byron Katie. So Byron Katie, as in the girl's name. And she's got so many videos on YouTube. And I think a couple of her books are even free. Audiobooks are free on YouTube. And that's 4 questions that you, if you're upset about something, somebody, you take it to the 4 questions, and you can follow along with her. She's got so many that she's doing with people online. You can literally just follow along with your own problem. So, and then you come to an end and you realize it works in a similar way to psychedelics by changing perception.
Right.
Yeah, it changes your perception.
But what I think is interesting is there's different ways around it, and I could see that Priscilla made a comment as well. She said that there's been research about magic mushrooms for depression, so there is research to actually back that, which is great. So it seems like that's the reason why they're moving forward, and they're obviously going to make things legal now, because it's pointless you keep on giving people antidepressant and it's not really making any difference in their lives. But thank you so much for explaining everything for us in that short space of time. But what I wanted to explore more in regards to, with African spiritual practices, but in terms of, because you said obviously it helps you deal with depression, and also it helped you to get your son out of the gang. So was you giving your son any of these I'm going to try and pronounce it again, but
psychedelics.
Psychedelics. I just said it's psychedelics. So did you give that to your son at all? Or
I did because so I started off with the tapping, learned the work, read lots of books. A really good book called Hold On to Your Kids by Gabor Mate, which was really good at explaining what had happened with my son, which is that he had unattached from the adults in his life and had attached to his peers, and it's actually something they call peer attachment, and that had a lot of exercises you could do to re-establish that closeness. She's back, excellent. And so I was doing all of those things, and that's what helped me to kind of re-establish my relationship with my son, was really working on the reattaching to him and using Byron Katie the work. So because as my son was going through that, you can imagine his language to me in the house was not like a mother and son, and I had to really stop myself from being pulled into these huge ridiculous rows that were never really about the real thing. And for a long time, people were telling me boundaries is about boundaries. That book really helped me understand that when a child is attached to somebody else, boundaries don't work anymore. It's kids that decide to keep the boundary. We may set them, but they choose to keep the boundaries. So Hold On to Your Kids was really good at helping me to understand about what kind of rows not to have, basically.
Right. Yeah.
And then later on, another book really helped me, was called Nonviolent Communication. Loads of videos of that online by a man called Rosenberg. And that helped in our communication. So I had to learn that on my own because my son wasn't learning any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I had to learn that. And then it was another book really helped me, which was about coming out of a cult, because I realized that what had happened with my son, the gang was just like being in a cult. And that book was what they say, the pièce de résistance. That was the icing on the cake. That gave me the blueprint. And then the African spirituality in terms of having an ancestral altar, pouring libation at the crossroads for a legba to just ask for my son to be delivered to me. What I found was that really helped to buoy me up. It made me feel very, very strong. It made me very able to follow the cars that were bringing him home, take down their car numbers, find the pubs where they were selling stuff, find the mini cab stations they were using, because I felt like I had an army of ancestors. Like the police, you say, you've got to be careful, these guys will. And I knew, as I know I'm watching you, nobody was going to touch me. Like I knew it. So it says repeat her name.
Repeat her name. Yeah.
So the book about the cults, that was written by a woman called Diane Benscoter. and her book was called something like In the Footsteps of My Master, or The Footsteps of a Master. And she has a channel on YouTube. So if you put Diane Benscoter cults, it will come up. But she was the only person I found who was equating being in a gang as the same as being in a cult.
Okay.
And
Sorry, carry on. Sorry,
yeah,
continue.
no, so it was everything together. It needed everything together.
Mm.
And in a way, that's what the event is. It's the modalities, it's the African spirituality, it's the psychedelics, it's everything that I found that helped me, that I just keep bringing more and more and more, because what I realized is the more you are you and all of you, then you can deal with anything.
That's so
And
true.
yeah, that's the premise, really.
And this is the thing, because I was listening to a conversation earlier today. One of my friends sent it to me. Tremaine, big up yourself if you're watching the live. And I can't remember the name of the chat, but he was talking about, like the majority, similar to what you're saying, the majority of our brain is actually like dead, like completely asleep. And the real power is within ourselves. We are really walking lights on this earth. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. But we've been so suppressed, we're not able to tap into this. So I'm assuming, based on your 2-day event, that people are really going to be able to tap into their real inner self. Is that correct?
That's what I'm really, really hoping, that people get so much information that everybody takes it away and you kind of find your own way. Because when I thought that I was going to find the one thing that was going to help us, I realized no, everybody's different, and there's so many things out there that actually we can just pick and choose what will work for you. I always say the age of the guru is dead. If you're even thinking that you're getting everything you need from one person, you're probably falling back into religion. And there's something we have to watch, because it's scary to be autonomous. It's scary to really be in control. So we're kind of, it's almost natural, it's become natural to look for a master and to look for an enemy. And so what I found is the real healing comes when you try not to have a master and you try not to have an enemy. And those are big. Those are very big journeys.
It's accountability. It's about making yourself accountable, isn't it, Akua? And a lot of people are frightened. That's why they go looking for somebody else to do the work or tell them or show them what to do. So I was saying to Caz Mac that when I met you, I was just like, this is the bravest woman that I've come across in such a long time. Like, you are so brave in terms of, when you mentioned about the psychedelics not being legal, just for that fact, a lot of people will be like, I'm not even going there because I don't want to get myself into trouble. But you were so determined to help yourself and your son that it was by any means necessary, right?
100%, 100%,
And I guess,
100%.
and I guess it also comes back down to how much do you really want this? Do you know what I mean? Because, like, as much as we've been taught, conditioned to be, we have a master, there is an enemy, etc. So we kind of just like lean on what seems more comfortable, but at the same time we're still frustrated, we're still just like very anxious, don't know what we're going to do, because I'm sure there's somebody's going to be watching a replay, or somebody's even watching right now and they're going through something very similar to what you're going through, what you went through, and this is at such a right time for them. So in terms of the event itself, because we don't want to leave people hanging, I know we still got time to talk, but can you just tell us what people can expect at the event? When does it start? I'm going to share the link on the live, guys, so that you can actually go and get your tickets now if you wish. So if you can expand a bit more on the event itself.
Yeah, so we start on Friday morning at Rich Mix on Bethnal Green Road. And if you can't come to the live event, there are online tickets and you'll receive audio files. So you receive audio files like a podcast and then pictures as well. All the pictures that we take will also be shared with people who have bought online tickets. So it starts at 10:30 in the morning. Friday, we've got Tessai, who's doing like vocal healing. She did the meditation I talked about at the top. We've got somebody, Galactic Clyde, he's bringing in a dodecahedron, the 10-sided shape, and he's bringing a life-size one in that people can actually go inside and feel the vibrations. Apparently it's 10 times more, no, 3 times more powerful than a pyramid. And so you can actually, and he's going to have that up in the space so different people can go inside and feel that energy. And then he's going to talk about that. He's doing another talk about cardology and numbers, the importance of numbers. My brother's going to be there talking. His healing gifts started about 4 years ago. And he's going to be talking about this change that's already started in humanity, that different people are feeling, and how much he's feeling, because he's come so much more on, so he can tell us about how the light, the new light that's coming in, how it is actually acting on your cells, and really describing for us the gifts that we're going to have, and some of the gifts that he already has, being able to see your chakras. He can see your organs. He can see your life's timeline, your ancestral timeline. And these are all things he says is the new light we're all going to start having. We have Edison from Ancestral, what's it called? Ancestral Essence. He talks about how your ancestors are in you. So he doesn't even use an altar. He teaches people how to recognize the altar and the ancestors in yourself and identify your own light language. He's going to be speaking. I'm so excited by that. We have Charles, aka what's he called himself? Ravul Ravai. He talks about mysticism and the Kabbalah and magic. There's so many, there's like 12, I think 12 or 13 people, a couple of people talking about psychedelics. Anya's going to be showing 20 minutes of her psychedelic film, all about all the scientific trials that are going on, and also about shamanic practices around the world using psychedelics. And there's a Q&A with her afterwards. So it's a full 2-day program of lots of things to take part in. Our Sayare is actually, they're going to be doing a workshop on how to set up an altar, do your ancestral veneration, and also how to do an ancestral meditation. So you can really receive information from your ancestors. And I've done her class, and the ancestor that I ended up drawing, well, he wasn't from this planet, that's for sure. He was a very distant, very, very distant ancestor, quite a surprise. But it's just amazing, really, just to have all of these people live in a venue is brilliant.
That's going to be amazing. So if our guests or anybody is watching a replay, because obviously they've missed the event, and you said you can actually purchase tickets online as well, is that correct? Okay,
yes.
So guys, I have put all the information into the chat, and I will also put that information onto the live once we've end the broadcast, once this all goes live. All the books that you mentioned as well, Kuma, if you can just send me that information in the description, so you guys don't panic, we've got you covered. So when is going to be the next event after June?
So after June is going to be August, the bank holiday weekend. So it's the Friday and the Saturday. So you won't miss the carnival. It's the Friday and the Saturday of the August bank holiday weekend. And we're actually going to do a 50% off ticket for that if you buy the August tickets before, I think, Monday. So I have to turn on tonight at midnight the August tickets,
Right.
because the program for who's going to be speaking isn't finalized. So people are going to be buying the tickets blind, but all they need to know is we're going to have at least 13, 14 fabulous people over the 2 days there, and you will be able to buy weekend tickets for August at half price for the next 7 days. Yeah. So
And
I'm
what's
quite
the
excited
prices
by
for
that.
the ticket? So what's the prices for the ticket? So if you want to join online,
It's, I think
because
it's
you've got different
£20.
£20. So because it's online and you've got various different speakers, different things that's going to be happening, how would that actually work? Would you just be able to select which one you want, and you'd be available to, able to just join in the live that way?
No, so what they're going to get is recordings. So they're
Right.
going to get, I think we get the USB on Saturday night when we finish, and then on Sunday I upload the USB, and all the ticket buyers, the ones who were there live and the ones who bought online ticket, will get all of the talks.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, they'll get all of the audio, and I'm trying to find a young person to help me move our stuff onto a podcast platform. So they'll also be available on a podcast platform and also available on Patreon. We're going to start a Patreon page as well, so that people who miss everything or want to go back for our back catalogue, there'll be other bits and bobs available on Patreon, just so we can really keep everything going, because this isn't something that makes a profit unless maybe I can attract a sponsor, and it is something that I am going to work on for at least for the October. But we're such a small team, it's only really kind of like 2 of us, so I haven't really moved into the marketing side. But maybe I'll put up a sign at the event and just see if there's other people who want to join to help, so that we can kind of make it more sustainable, because at the moment I fund everything with my business, which is sewing, and that's what I use to fund everything.
Okay, because you're a fashion designer as well, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm a dressmaker.
So if you can just even let our audience know a bit more about your fashion, because I've seen some of your beautiful garments. I saw Iola, I saw Janelle modeling. I was like, okay, so what happened to me? I never get a memo about this. I just model for my mouth boutique.
Next time, both of you have got to come and be modeling.
Well, at least you're modeling for.
What was that, Miss T?
Apologies for my internet. I don't know what's going on. I said my internet. I'm really sorry, ladies. It just keeps dropping out.
It's okay, my
and I've
dear,
moved right next to the box, so I apologize. I just wanted to say that.
It's okay. But
Fabulous.
So if anybody's got any questions,
we have to go, Taz, we have to go down to the store where Akua is.
Because where's the store based?
Well, so we were in Brixton, and we're not in Brixton at the moment because there's refurbishments in my shop unit. So at the moment I'm at, there's a little market in King's Cross in a bit they call Coal Drop Yard. And it's behind King's Cross Station, and there's this whole amazing development that I never even knew was there. And there's a little market there called Coal Drop Yard, or Canopy Market, and that's where I am Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Otherwise, most of the time I work from home, and that's where I see clients, which is in Kilburn. And I also see clients in the East End from my sister's workshop. And I'm still seeing clients in Brixton in another friend's shop. And I don't know if the market will ever finish refurbishing my shop. So I can see some people almost anywhere in London. There are 3 places: Kilburn, Brixton, or Stratford.
Stratford.
And you can find me on all the socials as My Local Dressmaker. And that's also my website, mylocaldressmaker.com. And Instagram, Facebook, My Local Dressmaker. And most people, what they do, they send me a picture or a drawing. I reply with a quote, and then we get going from there.
And do you do all types of design? So if I had seen something in a magazine, say in Vogue magazine, and it was a Chanel design, you can just mirror that basically.
Yeah, totally. The Kardashians have definitely kept me gainfully employed.
Thanks.
I give thanks on those tiny bits of fabric that they wrap up on their bodies, because young women love them. And you know what I really like actually about dressmaking is people will come with a picture, but invariably there's something they want tweaked for them. So that's what makes these, you know, it makes it quite fun. So somebody will come with, oh, Kim was wearing this, you know, Kim Kardashian, but then they're like, but you know, my boobs are like this, so I want it like that, and my bum's like that, so I want it like that, you know. And so invariably you end up with your own take on something.
Yeah, that's beautiful, because it's customized for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the good thing is nobody else is going to have that. You know, no one's going to have what you've actually got, which I love getting clothes customized made. So you might actually be in here. I'll be hollering for sure.
Oh, definitely. I'd love to sew for the two of you, because I love your styles, girls.
Oh, thank you.
Stylish.
When I came to your shop, I didn't even buy anything because I couldn't. I wanted everything, and I was like, "You can't have it. You can't have all that. You can't have the jewelry." Then I saw the other part where there was the soaps and the shampoos and the creams. I was like, "Oh man, I've got to come back. I need to take out a mortgage so I can come and buy up Akua stuff."
No, it was brilliant, and I'm so pleased to meet you again, because who knew that we would be coming full circle around?
I knew, Akua. I was just like, listen, universe, I need to find this woman again. So when Caz said to me, oh, I met this, and I said to her, it's the lady with the son. Remember, Caz? I said, it's the lady that killed her son. And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, it is. And then I went in and read your bio and everything. It's the same sister.
Oh,
so I knew.
Excellent.
Janelle just said, Janelle, hey Janelle.
There's so much more that I need to learn from you.
Oh, I'm only too willing. I hope you're able to come down over the weekend. I really, really hope you're able to come down. It'll be wonderful.
We're keepingitreal.com. We are grafting this weekend. We're just about seeing ourselves this weekend. We've got
we are working. However, I would love August.
Yeah, August. Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely August.
Yes.
Janelle says she's loving all the information. So necessary for us to heal once and for all. And I think, you know, with Janelle saying that, I think we're really in a season where it's about, because I think, are we in the age of, is it the Piscean or is it Aquarius?
Age of Aquarius.
Age of Aquarius. So Aquarius, because I listen to like Louise Hay quite a lot. That's something that I found. And I think because of her background in terms of the trauma that she went through, and obviously her doing the work on herself, etc. And it sounds very similar to yourself, because even when you were saying about this book you've read and this book, and you know, and I was listening to you intently, and I was thinking, but sometimes when you're going through that pain, the last thing you're thinking about is, I want to read a book, because we don't have that mindset to really go and find the information, seek the information to how we could potentially help us. And I think that's why religion is so much easier, because it then means that you don't really need to apply the work. All you need to do maybe just quote scripture, praise the Lord, etc., and just have a belief, you know. Whereas you're still not doing the application in terms of where it comes from, the trauma, whereas you're doing the work, and now you're able to share that information to help others. But I would say anybody that has got any of the expertise that Akua is actually seeking, she needs somebody to help in marketing. She needs a team. She just mentioned she's only got 2 people. I know that you have got some beautiful talents that we can help this queen, because if we help her, then we're helping ourselves and we're helping all of the human race. I'm just saying, so please do get in contact with Akua. We just put our email address, our website is out there, and I will
thank you.
because at the end of the day, we have to help one another, right?
That's right.
Yeah, totally. And I always find there's angels everywhere. The other day I was talking to my son because after he came out of everything, he chose to return to Ghana because it wasn't safe for him to be around here anymore, because of how abruptly he left the people. And one day he just turned around and said, I'm going to go to Ghana and I want to buy my ticket myself. And so it was like, oh, okay. And he's been in Ghana, and for a while it was kind of like, still waiting for him to start his life. And then one of these angels just popped up in the husband of my cousin. And it's so mad. About 25 years ago, I looked after my cousin's son when he was first brought over from Ghana, and he didn't know anybody very much. He just really knew me because I used to go to Ghana regularly. So I just loved him. We just got on. He's Wednesday born like me, so I'm a queer, he's Kweku. So I looked after him for a little bit, and then after a while he was happy and content to just be with his parents. So roll forward 25 years later, my cousin's husband comes to us and says, look, I've heard Seren's in Ghana and he's not really doing anything. Would you mind if I sent him to school and I'll pay for everything? And we're like, no, we don't mind. If you can persuade him. Yeah. And what I didn't know,
of course not,
and what I didn't know about my cousin's husband is that, like my son, he lost his father when he was 8. And he'd come with us to my son's father's funeral. But apparently he was all, that was a trigger for him, remembering what it was like for him to lose his father. And apparently he made a vow to himself that if my son ever needed him, he would be there for him. And so watching how everything had unfolded, he decided to be there for my son at a time when nobody remembered Brauchi or anything, and now he saw my son, he told my son the story. My son says, if it hadn't have been for the story of him also losing his father, he would have said no to going to school. But look at that. He was so touched by Brauchi that he said yes. He's gone into school. He's found it's actually easier than he thought it was, because he had a lot of fear about being back in school. And now he's actually enjoying it and sometimes even getting bored. And I just find there's angels. You just don't even know where they're going to come from. But when the need is there, they seem to come. So I just feel like we're blessed on this planet.
They do.
We have what we have, but we're also blessed on this planet, man. We're blessed.
Amen. Amen. Ashe, ashe, ashe. Okay, so guys, if you've got any questions, please do put into the chat so that we can ask the Queen herself, because we've only got like about 7 minutes remaining of the show, because you're going to be going on to another live. And if you could tell us a bit more about that live as well, because you're so busy.
So
busy, occupied doing great things.
I like that. Yeah, it's the last live that we've got in presenting the speakers of the event, and we're presenting them live on YouTube. On my channel is Anochi Films, which is spelled ANOKYE Films on YouTube. And so tonight we're speaking to Charles, aka Ravai Razul, and he's going to be talking about mysticism and magic tonight with us, and a bit about his background and how he uses all of these. And that's the last one. And then we've got tomorrow, and then everything starts on Friday. But I think I'll probably give it a couple of weeks break, and then I'll start with more programs with prospective speakers and healers and people that I find interesting. We'll be doing more lives on the channel, probably weekly after.
And what's your channel information, just in case anybody's wants to jump over, because that starts at 8:30, is that correct?
Yeah. So that's Anochi Films, but it's spelled ANOKYE Films, and then that's the YouTube channel, Anochi Films. YouTube channel. Yeah. And you can find us there.
Don't worry, guys. I'm going to send you the information. If
Are you going to
made
be making
Say
Akua,
that
are
again?
you going to be writing a book, making a film? Will you
I'm
be writing a book or making a film about this whole journey?
Yes, I'm writing a book about the whole journey, and I've been a little bit lazy on the book this last kind of couple of months, but I'm hoping that I can take like a month off to really break the back of the book, because I've only done 2 chapters at the moment and I need to do a lot more, because I'd hoped to be nearly halfway through the book by halfway through the year, and I'm not. I'm still at the beginning. So yeah, I am writing a book about just everything we kind of went through and the insights that I've been getting with the entheogens and everything. That's one of my passions, really, for sure.
Oh, wow, goodness.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Yes, we need the manual. Yes, we need the manual.
I think so too. So what word of encouragement would you give to anybody that is on the live or watching a replay and they're going through similarity in terms of your story, what you went through with your son? Because as we know, we're living in a day and age, you send your kid to school, you don't know who's grooming your child, and this isn't just male, these are females, and it's also having an impact on them afterwards.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to anybody that's watching now?
I think definitely the first advice I would really give are the books. Really hold on to your kids. I think that's a really good book to just even see as a measure where you are with your children. Are they still attached to you, or are they attached to other people? I'd really recommend that. I definitely recommend The Work, Byron Katie's The Work. I think that is such a good way of being untriggered and dealing with the things that trigger us. I wish I could recommend somebody who's written a book on racism, some of the insights that I've had through the entheogens about kind of like not about getting rid of the racist that's in your heart first, because that's the racist who has more effect on you than the ones on the outside. And I haven't found a book on that, but that's what I've learned through working with the entheogens, working with the psychedelics. And that's still a lifelong piece of work. And it's a work that means that you have to admit that we live in a racist soup. And just because you're Black, it doesn't mean that you cannot enact racism on somebody of a different hue. The Black women who are dying in hospitals, a lot of their nurses are Black and brown. Their nurses are enacting the racist way of behaving. Black teachers can enact racism on our Black children, and they sometimes have to be able to be seen as acceptable by their masters. So this idea that we have that, we can't be racist, I understand it, but it's not actually true. But when you address the racist in you, you see where you limit yourself, and that first place gives you the strength to be able to deal with it when it comes from the outside. I wish there was a book on that. Maybe one day I'll write it.
Maybe you're going to write it.
Because the fact
Powerful.
that it's not out there, and the fact that it's on your heart, sorry, Miss T, you need to
No
write
problem, go for it.
Yeah.
But we were speaking about this, Caz. Remember we were
Yes.
saying about gatekeepers?
Yes.
So we had a conversation a few nights ago, and I was calling them gatekeepers. But it's exactly the same thing as what you're saying. And I wish we had more time. Like, I feel like we've just scraped the surface. So
we can do another one just on
that. We
that.
can do part 2.
Yes.
Maybe we should do part 2 next week. Well,
absolutely.
Not next week. We want to have some time out, but maybe in a couple of weeks.
I don't even mind next week, because it is really on my heart, that one, that unpacking the racist within, because that's where our freedom lies. It really, really is.
Very powerful.
So guys, if you think we should do part 2 with Queen Akua next week, and we're going to be talking about unpacking the racist within, put some fire into the comments. Let us know, because we're signing off in a minute. So let us know, should we go down or what? Let us know.
Yeah, and also let us know we want to know from the people if they're going to embark on a different journey and maybe try some microdosing.
Yes.
Let's put it out there. Let's put it
Yes.
out there, you know.
Yeah, I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Okay, well, until next time, guys, thank you so much for joining, and thank you for being with us today, Akua. We are so excited for you and what you are doing. And yeah, guys, join us next week. You just heard it. We're doing this again next week. We're doing this again next week. So we're going to sign out now because the time is up. So ciao, everyone.
Bye.
See everybody.